50-year building rule. Hi everyone, it's Charm again from Ready to Adult Philippines, a channel about personal finance, entrepreneurship, and adulting how-tos. Okay, so before we start with the video, just a couple of changes or announcements for the channel. If you notice, I did not upload last Thursday. It's been a month now since I've been uploading twice a week, but with the topics that I do, it's really not sustainable. I was really rushing to make each video and I don't want that. So I'm going back to uploading once a week every Sunday evening and maybe throw in a second video once in a while. And also, we just hit 3,000 subscribers. Like, literally a few moments before I started filming this video, I was notified that I hit 3,000 subscribers. So thank you so much, everyone. It really helps out this channel a lot. So if you're new here or if you haven't already, then please subscribe and also leave a like in the videos. And the last change is obviously I have to acknowledge the new hair. It was just really getting hot. And also it feels so light now and I don't have to worry about it hitting the mic all the time. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if it makes me look more mature or it makes me look younger, because I've been getting a lot of different compliments lately about that. So let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, those are all the announcements. And also, of course, our featured comments for the week. If you guys want to get featured, then comment down below. And our Instagram shoutouts as well. If you want to get featured, then Insta story this video and tag me at ReadyToAdultPH. Alright, so as you've seen in the video title, we're talking about house versus condominiums. So most first-time home buyers are really faced between the choice of a house or a condominium. And today, that's what we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna be talking about the pros and cons of each. And we're breaking it down by discussing the location, the actual living space, the environment, and the ownership and investment aspect of it. Towards the end, I'm gonna be discussing my experience with both and my personal thoughts and opinions about them. Okay, so let's start the video by identifying which properties we're talking about. So what we're gonna be comparing today is a condo within the metro, specifically near or within the CBD or the Central Business District. And let's put a figure of around 3 million pesos for a 25 square meter condo. Okay, so this condo can be mid to high end based on the area or the developer. Okay, and we're comparing it with the house that's in the outskirts of the metro or just outside the metro. Okay, so let's say it's still priced at 3 million pesos with a lot size of 50 square meters and a floor area of around 60 to 70 square meters. So we're talking about a two-story house here in a mid-end subdivision. Alright? Okay, and for the sake of this comparative analysis, we're talking about if you are single or if you're living alone or if you're a couple and one or both of you work in the city. Alright? So let's talk about the first one, which is location. Under location, of course, let's talk about the actual location of the place. Okay, so for the condo, I mentioned earlier that you are near or within the CBD areas. So that means you're really in the heart or in the bustling parts of the metro. Okay, so most likely it is near your place of work. And for the house and lot, like I mentioned earlier, you are in the outskirts of the metro, okay? So you may be further from your place of work or the different establishments that you need access to, okay? So in terms of location, I would say 1 point for condo. Okay, so let's move on to convenience. Okay, so for the condo, obviously it's very convenient. You are near malls, groceries, banks, your place of work, as I mentioned earlier, your church, and etc. Okay, and when you meet up with clients or friends, it's much easier. And for the house, you might need to drive a little bit further as compared to the condo where you can just mostly walk to places. So in terms of convenience, that's another point for condo. Okay, so last in the category of location is travel costs and time. For the condo, again, you might not need to travel far. You can maybe walk towards work. And then for travel costs also, you don't have to spend as much on either gas or commute. Okay, so for the house and lot, obviously you need to be traveling a little bit further. So maybe on gas, maybe on commute, maybe on toll fees if those apply to your metro. And also it takes a lot of time. So if for a condo, maybe 5 to 20 minutes you're already in your workplace. For the house and lot, maybe an average of an hour or two, especially if it's really traffic in your areas, which it is in ours. And also, not to mention the stress that traveling or being on the road for so long might cost you in the long run. If you're spending 2 to 3 hours on the road every day, that really takes a toll on people. Okay, so for travel costs and time, we're gonna give it to condo again. Okay, so let's move on from location and let's talk about the actual living space. Okay, so first let's dive in a little bit more on the cost. Okay, so for condo, I found in a website online that the average price per square meter is 128,000. That's for Cebu. And for Manila, if we're talking about like Makati or BGC, then it's around 178,000 per square meter. So that's definitely high. And for the house and lot, if you're talking about Cebu, that's the outskirts of Metro Cebu, like Talisay or Consolacion, then it's around 50,000 pesos per square meter. Alright, so for outskirts of Manila, I found that it's around 63,000 per square meters. So those are the cities within Metro Manila that are not so heavily commercialized. So some of the cities within that, it's around 63,000 per square meter. Okay, so if you look at the per square meter comparison, then a condo is really much higher than a house and lot. Okay, so for the cost, I would give them to both actually, because for the house and lot, it is cheaper per square meter, but also for the condo, it's mostly cheaper upfront. Meaning, if you are someone who is looking for the qualities that a condo has, it is much cheaper than looking for a house with the equivalent. Okay, so we'll be talking more about that later, but for now, I'm giving a point to each. Alright, so next is the size. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about a 25 square meter condo and a 60 to 70 square meter for the floor area of the house. So obviously, the condo is much smaller and the house and lot is much bigger. Okay, so for this, I would give the point to the house and lot. Okay, so next is privacy. So for the condominiums, you don't have as much privacy as you do in house and lot. Obviously, the units are beside each other. You're only separated by walls. You share hallways, you share elevators. So in terms of privacy, there's really not much privacy as compared to a house. Okay, so for the house, needless to say, you have more privacy, even if it's not a single detached house, meaning maybe it's a townhouse that you're still beside each other. It's a firewall or it's a thicker wall that's separating you. And also because there's much more space to begin with, there's much more privacy, not just from your neighbors, but also within the people inside the household. Okay, so for this, we're gonna give the point again to the house and lot. Okay, next is in terms of expansions and renovations. So obviously with a condo, there's no room to expand. You can't expand your condo from the size that you bought it unless you buy the next unit beside you, right? And also, there isn't much freedom to renovate. You can't renovate the outside of your condo because everything has to look uniform. Even the curtains that you are using, most condos would really implement that you use either a white or a beige so that it looks uniform from the outside. Alright, so in terms of the house, then obviously you have much more freedom to expand, to renovate, as long as you secure the right building permits for it, then you can turn your 2-story house to a 3-story house, okay? So some subdivisions have guidelines on how your houses should look, but generally you have more freedom to renovate and expand in house and lot compared to a condo. Okay, so I would give this point again to the house and lot. Let's move on to pets and plants. Okay, so for pets and plants, a lot of condominiums don't allow pets, and they won't stop you from having plants, but there isn't just as much room to have plants, especially if you don't have a balcony. So for the pets, if it's a deal breaker for you not to be able to bring a pet, then most definitely ask the condo admin for that before you purchase it. Okay, so for the house and lot, nobody really stops you from having pets and plants. You might even have a front yard or a backyard to do those things. Okay, so obviously I'm gonna give this point to the house. Okay, so I'm not saying you can't ever have pets and plants in a condo. It's just that a lot of condominiums have restrictions. Okay, so next we're talking about maintenance. For condominiums, when you are talking about maintenance, then majority of the time you can just call for your building admin if you need a plumber, if you need an electrician. Okay, so maybe for bigger works, like you need to do bigger renovations, then you need to hire your own contractor or your own carpenter for it. But majority of the times for minor fixes, you have the admin or the maintenance staff there for you. Okay, that's really something that's convenient about having a condo. Also, because the space is small, there isn't really much to maintain in terms of cleanliness as well. So there's not much area to clean. Okay, so for the house, you usually need your own contact if you need an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, a painter, etc. Okay, so for this, I would really give the point to the condominium for the convenience that it offers when it comes to maintenance. Okay, so let's move on from the actual unit or the living space, and let's discuss the environment. Okay, so for the condo, let's discuss like the building and the surroundings, and for the house and lot, let's talk about the village or the subdivision. Okay, so first is for the open spaces and fresh air. So for the condo, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't have your own balcony, then it's just a window that you have for fresh air or open space that's truly yours. Okay, majority of the condominiums do have shared open spaces and other amenities, which we'll be talking about later. But generally, they're shared, so there might be a lot of people at one time. So for the house and lot, you definitely have more open space and you have fresh air as well as compared to the condo because you're in the city. So to generalize, the air is much cleaner in the outskirts of the city or in the provinces as compared to the middle of the city where there are so much cars and pollution, right? So in terms of open spaces and fresh air, I would give it again to house and lot. Alright, so okay, so next let's talk about the dues. Okay, or the condo dues or the homeowner association dues. So since we're comparing a condominium and a house and lot in a gated subdivision, then both most probably has dues, but the condo dues are generally higher than that of the village dues or the subdivision dues. Okay, so for this, I would give it to the house and lot because generally it is cheaper. If you are comparing a 3,000 to 5,000 condo due to a 1,000 to 3,000 homeowners association due. Okay, so next are the amenities. Okay, so most of the time for the condo, you already have a pool, you have a gym, you have function rooms, maybe a roof deck, manicured gardens, and open spaces. Okay, so the cost and effort to maintain this is relatively low because it is shared cost between all the other unit owners in the building. Okay, so for the house and lot, you can still have all these amenities, but it is up to you to build them or to purchase these equipments. So for the maintenance and cost, it's definitely much higher than that of the condominium. Okay, so if one breaks down, then you have to buy a new one as compared to the condo where that's kind of part of the dues or the condo dues that you are paying for. Okay, so for amenities, I would give the point to the condo. Okay, so next are the parking spaces. For the condo, you have to purchase a separate parking space and it usually costs around 500,000 to 1 million pesos for a parking space. And if you opt not to buy and you have a car, then you can rent it. Usually rental is around 3 to 5,000 every month. Okay, so for the house and lot, usually the design of the house already comes with a parking space, maybe 1 or even 2 parking slots. Okay, so you don't really have to shell out additional cost for the parking space anymore. So for this, I have to give the point to house and lot. Okay, last for the environment category is the security. Okay, so for the condominium, it's typically really secure, and usually because you have only 1 to maybe 3 entrances max, it's really well monitored, and all the hallways have CCTVs. Okay, so if someone breaks in, then usually there's only 1 or 2 exits to really go to, and they're really quite strict with the people going in and out of the building. So in terms of security for the house and lot or the gated subdivisions, they still have guards. So you have shared guards, usually either they're in the guardhouse or they are roaming. But because the streets are bigger, it's harder to monitor even with CCTVs and with guards roaming. It's harder to monitor a village as compared to a condominium. Okay, so for this, for security, I'm gonna give the point to condominiums. Okay, so next, let's move on to the last category, which is the ownership and investment aspect. Okay, so first, let's talk about the land ownership. Okay, so for the condominiums, you don't have ownership per se in the lot, but condominiums work like a corporation and you're like a shareholder of that corporation. You own a portion or a unit in the whole building. Okay, so for the house and lot, since you own both the structure and the lot, if the house deteriorates, then you can just sell the lot or you can rebuild the house. Okay, so for this, I would give the point to the house and lot. Okay, so next is the 50-year building rule. Maybe you have heard about the 50-year building rule, and I wanna talk about that for a bit because I feel like a lot of people don't understand this and they think that after 50 years, then it's, bye-bye condominium. So this 50-year building rule isn't really an official thing, but it came because of 2 things. First is because I mentioned earlier that a condo kind of acts like a corporation. And as I mentioned in my previous video about corporations, they only have a validity of 50 years. But they are renewable, okay? And also because it was mentioned in the Condominium Act that after 50 years, which is also when the corporation expires, they have to reassess if the building is still economical and it's not obsolete. So with those, it doesn't necessarily mean that after 50 years, the condominium will be demolished. It's just that they have to reassess if it's still sturdy. They have to check if it's still in good condition for people to be living in it. And majority of the time, they take it upon a vote. So a majority of the unit owners need to vote whether they want to renovate the place or they want to sell it, okay? So if they want to sell it, then it's profit sharing for the unit owners. So for the house and lot, this 50-year rule doesn't really apply. So the good thing here is that you can pass the lot to the next generations, okay? Like I mentioned earlier, if the house deteriorates, they can always demolish it and rebuild a new house or renovate the house, okay? So for this point, I would give it to the house and lot, of course, but I just really wanted to clear that up because I really heard a lot of people bring up the 50-year rule as if the building is automatically gonna be demolished. And yeah, I mean, the technology right now in terms of building and construction has been really advanced. So we'll see. I think in 50 years, the buildings would still be standing. I mean, there are definitely older buildings than that. Okay, so let's move on to our last point for this category, which is the investment opportunity. Okay, so for the condo, I would say it's easier to rent out and you have higher payouts. Okay, so whether you're renting it out for long term or short term like Airbnb, you will have a higher payout than the house and lot. Okay, so for the house and lot, even if it's harder to rent out, you can still find long-term tenants, and mostly because the lot appreciates in value, it's really good for long-term investing. Okay, so for this, I can't really choose between the two, so I'm gonna give the point to both. There's also this 1% rule of thumb that I want you guys to know about in terms of rental or real estate investing. So the 1% rule is basically if you can rent out your property in maybe the next 3 to 5 years at 1% the cost you bought it for. Okay, not necessarily what the price range is today. Okay, so for example, we bought the condo for 3 million pesos. Can you rent it out at 30,000 pesos per month? So that's something to think about, okay? So 0.7 to 1% is generally a good number. Okay, so that's the last category of our comparison. So let's summarize it with the pros of each. Okay, so for condominium, if you're looking for cheaper upfront cost, good location, convenience, less travel time and travel costs, good amenities and security, then it might be for you. And for the house and lot, if you are someone who is looking for cheaper cost per square meter, bigger space, more privacy, more freedom to build and renovate, fresh air and open spaces, freedom to have pets and plants, you will have a parking area, then that can be for you as well, okay? So my point here is really to assess what you need and what are the things that you really prioritize over the other to be able to choose between the two. If you're someone who wants these things, then maybe you want to go to a condo. And maybe if you're someone who prefers to have these things, then maybe you're someone who prefers to have a house and lot. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about my experiences with both and what my personal opinions and preferences are. I have tried living in apartments in the outskirts of the city, and I've also tried living in a condo, which is where I am now. So in terms of both, for me, I would say the biggest comparison is really with the travel time. Before, when I used to go to school, I would spend around 1 to 3 hours on the road, not just because of traffic, but also because it was quite far from where I went to school. And now with the condo, especially that our office before the whole lockdown was just across the street, then I don't really have to rush all the time and I don't have to leave so early. I have much more time in my hands, and since I really prioritize having time, because also I have a lot of businesses that I have to handle, then I would say that my experiences with those, I really prefer the condo. And also, I would like to share to you guys that from the last topic about condo and real estate, we have since then bought our condo, and it's still not ready for occupancy. I think it's a year or two before that, but I would love to share to you guys the process. And the reason why I bought a condo is because, again, we have a family home in a good location in the city, and I have lived in a house almost all my life. I've only been living in a condo for 6 months. And with that said, also, we are gonna be giving up this unit. We are gonna be moving back to our houses because we don't have the office running, and with the condo that we just bought, we figured that we would be saving a lot more if we did not rent this condo out, okay? So maybe in the next video or two, my background is gonna change again for the nth times. And yeah, that's just a little update for me. Again, thank you so much for your support. I didn't think that I would hit 3,000 subscribers before hitting 1 year. So I really appreciate you guys. When I reply to comments and I say thank you and I really appreciate you, I really mean those. I'm just really awkward with getting compliments or, getting those kind words that you guys would message me or would comment. But know that I really appreciate each and every one of you. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And I know that adulting is really hard, so that's why I love making these videos for you guys. It's my way to even help just a little bit. And this has been Charm from Ready to Adult Philippines, and I will see you on my next video.